Hello everybody, and welcome to Breakfast with Museum Girl. I've had a lot of questions about what exactly it is that I eat. I'm on a diet called the specific carbohydrate diet. It means I can have any sort of complex carbohydrate whatsoever. This is because my system just does not process it very well, and being on this diet has actually fixed a lot of the problems that I've had, and a very nice side effect is that I'm actually losing weight. So hooray. So I thought I would show you what a typical meal looks like for me. This is a very large meal for me. This is more like a brunch. So this is what I have on the rare weekends that I have off and I actually get to relax and, take my time with it. So what you're seeing right now is making pecan brownies. That was pecan butter, which I made myself. You just throw a bunch of pecans in a food processor and hit go until it looks like that. And to that we add honey. So that's pretty much the only sweetener I can use. I could use saccharin, but I really don't want to. So I use honey or I use natural sugars like fruit or 100% grape juice or dates. Dates is a really big one. I can actually make a wicked chocolate cake with dates. So this is cooking with honey. It takes a while. This is actually the second bottle of honey because it goes a long, long way. But this is what is going to be added to the pecan butter. Now, nut butters are a lot easier to process than raw nuts or nut flours, so that's why when you're easing into this diet, you kind of start with the brownies like this. And I just wanted something nice and something sweet. So a lot of people ask me, do you miss things like cake or cookies or candy? And the answer is no, I can just make it myself. It is a lot more time consuming, but this video is almost real time and it does get done pretty fast. So this is probably the longest part actually of making the pecan brownies is getting the stupid honey out of the bottle. So once the honey is in there, it gets added to the pecan butter. I usually make a whole bunch of pecan butter at once and then store what I need for the rest. So in it goes, and use the rubber scraper. I just end up mixing the honey with the pecan butter with my rubber scraper, which is probably why I broke the first rubber scraper and had to buy a new one for myself and my roommate. But honey goes in. I guess you could heat it up if you wanted to be a little bit easier, but really, what's the point? So this pecan brownie cake thing is going to be sort of the dessert, the sweet course for this really, really yummy brunch that we're going to do. So the thing about this diet as well that a lot of people don't really realize is that you're limited to specific carbohydrates, only simple sugars, monosaccharides. It's not a low carbohydrate diet. You can eat as many carbohydrates as you want. And it's also unlimited. There's no limit on calories. You can eat as much as you need to. General rule of thumb I use is I eat when I'm hungry. So into the honey and the pecan butter goes an egg, and that also gets beaten up with a rubber scraper, which I probably shouldn't do, but do anyway. And it's eased up just a little bit, so it's faster in real time, and I've cut out some of the really, really boring bits. But again, the interesting thing about this diet is the fact that it is calorie unrestricted. I'm eating as much as I want, and I'm still actually losing weight on it. This is baking soda, half a teaspoon, and then some salt, a little pinch, and here's my incredibly scientific method of adding spices. I just add things until it looks good. So there's some nutmeg, some allspice, some cloves, a bunch of cinnamon, because I really like cinnamon. And then into all of that, I'm going to add about half a teaspoon of vanilla. The vanilla I don't actually measure for this recipe, I just kind of dump it in until it smells right. It's a very, very scientific method of baking that I use. So that was the vanilla. I also have to be very careful about vanilla because a lot of commercial vanilla has sugar in it, which you can't have. Oops, adding it again. So I actually have to get pure vanilla extract. It cannot have any extras added, and the best place to get that is actually Mexico. So I have two sources of vanilla right now. My friend Karina brought me some when she went on vacation, and that was awesome. And my friend Alexandra got her husband to bring back some when he went to visit his family. So this is the pecan butter batter in the baking pan. That was a lot of bees, with parchment paper. You could butter it. It's another bee. That's really weird. But I find parchment paper is just a lot easier. It makes my life so much simpler. I think it's the best invention in the history of ever. So smooth it all out, stick it in the oven at 325, and now we move on to our smoothie. So the smoothie is actually how I get my probiotics. This looks disgusting, but it's actually a berry mix. When you're first starting the diet, you have to cook your fruit. It just makes it easier to process. So this is a mix of blueberries, strawberries, and 100% grape juice that's just been boiled down. That's a little bit of pear sauce going in right now that was also made with grape juice, which is why it's purple, but it's actually pear sauce. And then the yogurt goes in. Now, you can't buy this yogurt, you actually have to make it yourself. Commercial yogurt is fermented for about 5 hours, which leaves the lactose intact, and lactose is a disaccharide. It's a chain sugar, and I can't have it. So this is 24-hour yogurt. It's fermented for 24 hours, and that breaks down the lactose into something I can eat, and also has a lot of probiotic in it, which is good for you, especially when you're trying to rebalance the bacterial complement of your digestive tract, which is actually the point of this diet. You can buy probiotics, but a lot of them that you can buy commercially actually contain bifidus, which is something that I can't actually have. There's some banana getting added right now. And a lot of them are made with starch, so if I were to have a probiotic, I have to have it specially made, and the yogurt's just easier. The bananas have to be very, very ripe. You can only have them when they've gone completely yellow and have spots. And to that I added 100% grape juice just to give it something to mix with. So when you mix it all up together, you end up with a delicious thing to go with your meal. And again, the interesting thing I find about this diet is that my taste buds have actually changed. When I first started, this would not actually have been sweet enough to me, but now I find it incredibly sweet because it actually does change the way food tastes. And one of the really interesting changes was what happened when I tried eggs. Now, eggs were something that I've not actually been able to eat for many, many years. I would actually feel nauseated when I eat them. So I haven't really had them since I was, an early teenager. But now on this diet, eggs are absolutely delicious. When I was first starting out, because you really have to ease yourself into it, eggs were one of the few proteins I could actually have, and I went through them at an insane rate. I would go through a carton every couple of days. Now it's back. I have about 2 eggs a day usually, either for breakfast or for lunch, because they're also one of the very few portable proteins that you can take with you. So unless I have access to a microwave or a fridge, I'm kind of stuck. It's either eggs or tuna and avocados. So mixing them up now, I did get some shell in, but you can actually use the eggshell to get bits of shell in very, very quickly. And to this I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and I'm going to scramble these eggs, so I'm also going to add a little bit of soup. It just makes the eggs a bit more savory and flavorful. This is chicken zucchini soup that's going in. Very easy to make. Once I finish with the chicken, I throw the bones in a pot with a whole bunch of zucchini and an onion, boil it up for several hours, and then when I'm straining the broth through a strainer to catch all the bones and things that I don't want, I pick the zucchini out and add it back into that broth and then puree it, and you end up with a very nice soothing kind of soup that's very good for a damaged digestive tract. It's very, very easy to process, and it's one of the things that kept me alive when I got very, very sick. And it just makes eggs taste absolutely delicious. So I'm not quite done. I am going to add some cheese. That's one of my favorite things to add to scrambled eggs. And I think the technical term for the amount that I'm adding is a whole hell of a lot. So this is an aged cheddar. It's actually just cheddar without any crap or coloring added, so it's a white cheddar. And I could use Parmesan or other cheeses, but Parmesan is a sometimes cheese. Cheddar's one of the ones that I can have because it's been aged long enough for the lactose to break down. We're sensing a theme here. There's a huge chunk of cheese in there, but that's okay, because, who doesn't like cheese? So it gets all whooshed up. The video is sped up. I don't actually whip my eggs that fast. And I'm going to get the pan ready for that to go in. Now, while I have been preparing these eggs, I have also started some bacon, because really, what's a meal of eggs without bacon? The bacon has to be specially bought. It has to be sugar-free bacon. There's a couple of brands that do it. A lot of times the low-sodium bacon also doesn't have sugar in it, but you do have to be very careful. Bacon has to be very crispy. It's really hard to find bacon with no sugar. So yes, this is the amount of butter I use to cook my eggs. It is a lot, but learning to cook eggs after 32 years of not cooking eggs led to a lot of fluid pans and a lot of Teflon in the scrambled eggs. So this was the amount of butter that actually worked for me and stopped the eggs from actually sticking to the pan. So that's what I use. So the eggs go in, and they get left for a while to cook down, and it does take a little bit longer to cook these eggs because there is so much moisture in them because of the soup, but when you finish you end up with this lovely batch of eggs. I like to have the nice crunchy crust on them too. That's personal preference. Then we plate them with our bacon and our pecan brownie for dessert and our lovely smoothie on the side, and that is my brunch. So I would take this, I would head off to my Saturday morning cartoons, and enjoy the rest of my day. So I hope that this was educational and informative, and thank you for joining me for breakfast.